What if I told you that the most important thing you'll ever hear is that nothing you do ultimately matters? Now, before you dismiss this as nihilistic nonsense, let me ask you something. Why does that statement terrify you so much? Why does your mind immediately rebel against it? Perhaps because, deep down, you suspect it might be true, and perhaps because you've been running your entire life from this very realization. Stay with me for just a moment, because what I'm about to share with you isn't the end of meaning, it's the beginning of freedom. You see, at this very moment, as you listen to these words, there are 7 billion human beings on this planet, each one absolutely convinced that their personal drama is the most important thing in the universe. 7 billion protagonists, each starring in their own epic movie, each believing their heartbreak is unprecedented, their love story unique, their struggles exceptional. But here's the curious thing. This has been happening for thousands of years. Billions upon billions of human beings have walked this earth before you. They laughed until their sides ached. They cried until no tears remained. They fell so deeply in love they thought they would die from the beauty of it. They hated with such intensity it consumed their days and haunted their nights. They waged wars, convinced their cause was righteous. They built empires, certain they would last forever. They prayed to their gods with desperate fervor, sure their prayers were being heard. They accumulated wealth, believing it would bring them security. They chased fame, thinking it would make them immortal. And every single one of them, every single one, was absolutely convinced that their story was special, that their pain was incomparable, that their victories were eternal, that their love was the greatest love that had ever existed. Where are they now? Gone. Not even dust remains. Their passionate love letters have crumbled. Their monuments have fallen. Their names have been forgotten. Their dramas, their ambitions, their heartbreaks all disappeared like writing on water, like breath on a cold morning, like yesterday's dream. And here you are, doing exactly the same thing. You fall in love and think, this feeling, this has never happened before in the history of the world. You suffer and believe your suffering is so profound, so unique, that the universe itself should take notice. But it doesn't. It has been happening again and again for billions of lifetimes, and existence remains magnificently unconcerned. The sun continues its ancient journey across the sky. The stars maintain their cosmic dance. The rivers flow on, completely indifferent to your victories and defeats. Now, this might sound cold, even cruel. But here's the beautiful paradox. This is actually the most liberating thing you could ever understand. Let me tell you about the great game. We're all playing a game so convincing that most people never realize it's a game at all. You wake up in the morning and immediately slip into your character. Perhaps you're playing the role of the successful businessman today. You put on your costume, the sharp suit, the confident expression, and you step onto the stage of your office. You deliver your lines perfectly. Let's maximize synergies. We need to think outside the box. You play the part so well that you forget you're acting. Then you come home and switch roles. Now you're the loving spouse, the caring parent. Different costume, different lines, different personality even. And again, you become so absorbed in the role that you forget the actor behind the mask. But here's what's fascinating. Watch a child play house. She becomes the mother, scolding her dolls, then instantly becomes the baby, crying for attention. She slips in and out of roles effortlessly, never losing sight of the fact that it's all play. She's not confused about who she really is. Somehow, we adults have forgotten how to play. We've become so identified with our roles that we think the mask is our face. You know what's even more amusing? The roles keep changing whether we like it or not. One day, you're the hero of your story, successful, admired, on top of the world. The next day, perhaps you're the victim, betrayed, overlooked, struggling to survive. One moment you're the wise teacher. The next, you're the confused student. One day you're madly in love. The next you can't remember why. And through all these changing roles, through all these different costumes, something remains constant. Something is watching the whole performance. What is that something? The ancient mystics called it the witness, the observer, pure awareness. It's that part of you that was present when you were 5 years old, and it's still here now. Your body has completely changed. Not a single cell remains from when you were a child. Your mind has transformed. Your beliefs, your desires, your entire personality may be utterly different. But that essential awareness, that inner witness, remains exactly the same. That witness is who you really are. But we've become so mesmerized by the show, so captivated by our own performance, that we've forgotten the performer. It's as if an actor became so absorbed in playing King Lear that he forgot he was actually John Smith from Ohio. And this forgetting this is the source of all human suffering. When you believe you are only the role you're playing, failure becomes devastating because you think you, the essential you, have failed. Success becomes intoxicating because you think you, the real you, have succeeded. Love becomes possessive because you think you, the limited you, need someone else to be complete. Death becomes terrifying because you think you, the only you there is, will cease to exist. But what if none of that is true? Let me share something that might shift your entire perspective. Think about your dreams last night. In your dream, perhaps someone insulted you. Your dream self felt genuinely hurt, maybe even angry. The emotions were completely real. Or perhaps you dreamed of winning the lottery. The joy was authentic, the excitement palpable. Maybe you dreamed of falling in love, and even after waking, the sweetness lingered in your heart. While you were in the dream, it felt absolutely real. The people seemed solid. The emotions had weight. The situations mattered desperately. But the moment you opened your eyes, what happened to all that reality? It evaporated instantly, like mist in the morning sun. Now, here's the startling possibility. What if your waking life is just another kind of dream? Not exactly the same. Of course, this dream seems more consistent, more persistent. But what if it's still fundamentally a dream? The mystics throughout history have suggested exactly this. They've said that what we call reality is actually a kind of collective dream, a shared hallucination, so convincing that we take it for the absolute truth. And just like in your nighttime dreams, while you're in this life dream, everything seems monumentally important. Your bank account feels crucial. Your reputation feels vital. Your relationships feel like matters of life and death. But what if, when you wake up from this dream, what we call death, you'll look back on all your desperate concerns the way you now look back on last night's dream? This isn't meant to make you depressed or nihilistic. Quite the opposite. When you understand that life is a kind of divine play, a cosmic game, something extraordinary happens. You can finally start to enjoy it. Think about watching a movie. When you're completely absorbed in a thriller, your heart races during the chase scenes. You worry about the hero. You feel genuine relief when the good guys win. But you never forget that it's just a movie. You don't run home and call the police about the bank robbery you just witnessed. You don't try to send flowers to the heroine in the hospital. You enjoy the full emotional experience while maintaining a kind of playful distance. That's exactly the attitude the awakened person has toward life. But most of us have forgotten we're watching a movie. We're like children who think the monsters on the screen can actually hurt them. We're screaming and hiding under the seats, completely forgetting that we're safe in the theater. The spiritual awakening is simply remembering that you're in the theater. You can still enjoy the movie. In fact, you can enjoy it more because you're not constantly terrified that you're going to die in the next scene. Let me tell you about a curious thing that happens when you begin to see life as a play. You start to notice how often you change costumes without even realizing it. Watch yourself carefully for just one day. Notice how you become a slightly different person with each interaction. With your boss, you might become deferential, careful, professional. With your children, you transform into someone patient and nurturing, or perhaps frustrated and authoritative. With your spouse, you might become intimate and vulnerable, or defensive and distant. With strangers, you put on the mask of politeness or perhaps indifference. None of these personalities is false. Exactly. They're all aspects of your character. But none of them is the complete you, either. You're like an actor with an enormous repertoire, slipping in and out of roles so smoothly that you don't even notice the transition. But here's what's beautiful about becoming aware of this process. Once you see the masks, you can choose when to wear them. Instead of them wearing you, you wear them. Instead of being compulsively driven by unconscious patterns, you can respond consciously to each situation. And sometimes, this is the most liberating thing of all. Sometimes you can take off all the masks and just be. No role to play, no impression to make, no one to please or impress or defend against. Just pure, naked, authentic existence. Most people are terrified of this authentic state because they think there's nothing there without the masks. They've identified so completely with their roles that they believe the roles are all they are. But when you have the courage to drop the masks, you discover something miraculous. You're still there. In fact, you're more there than ever before. Without the masks, your love becomes real instead of performed. Your creativity flows naturally instead of being forced. Your relationships become genuine instead of strategic. You stop trying to be someone and start being yourself, and you discover that yourself is far more interesting than any character you could invent. But the mind resists this simplicity. The mind loves complexity, drama, problems to solve. The mind says, if life is just a play, if nothing ultimately matters, then why do anything at all? This is the ego's last desperate attempt to maintain control. The ego knows that if you truly understand the playful nature of existence, it will lose its grip on you. So it tries to convince you that without deadly seriousness, without constant struggle and worry, life would become meaningless. But look at children again. Do they seem meaningless to you? They play with total engagement and total detachment simultaneously. They can be completely absorbed in building a sandcastle, working on it with intense focus and creativity, and then abandon it without a second thought when it's time for lunch. They haven't lost the ability to care deeply while holding lightly. They can love their teddy bear with all their heart while knowing perfectly well it's just stuffed fabric. They can be the brave knight or the beautiful princess with total conviction while never forgetting they're still themselves. This is the secret of enlightened living. Care deeply, but hold lightly. Engage fully, but don't cling. Love completely, but without possessiveness. Create beautifully, but without attachment to results. When you understand that life is play, you don't become lazy or indifferent. You become more creative, more spontaneous, more alive. Because now you're not playing to win or lose, you're playing for the sheer joy of playing. And here's something wonderful. When you stop taking yourself so seriously, others stop taking themselves so seriously around you. Your lightness becomes contagious. Your freedom gives others permission to be free. But what about when truly difficult things happen? What about when you lose someone you love, when you face serious illness, when you encounter real tragedy? Surely then the play metaphor breaks down. Not at all. In fact, this is when the understanding becomes most precious. Yes, you feel the full impact of loss, of pain, of fear. The awakened person doesn't become emotionally numb, but underneath the waves of feeling, there remains an unshakable peace, a deep knowing that this too is part of the play. This too will pass, and that which you truly are cannot be touched by any tragedy. It's like being an actor in a play where your character dies. You can throw yourself completely into the death scene, feel the terror, the sadness, the desperation, but you never forget that when the curtain falls, you'll get up and take a bow. The character dies, but the actor lives on. This doesn't make the performance less moving or meaningful. In fact, it might make it more beautiful, because now you can give yourself completely to the role without the fear that death is final. And gradually, as this understanding deepens, something profound happens. You begin to see that there's no essential difference between you and anyone else. We're all actors in the same play, all waves in the same ocean, all temporary expressions of the same eternal consciousness. The person you love, they're you in another costume. The person you dislike, you in a different role. Your children, you exploring what it's like to be young again. Your parents, you learning what it's like to grow old. This isn't just pretty spiritual poetry. When you truly see this, compassion becomes as natural as breathing. How can you hate another part of yourself? How can you be jealous of your own other roles? The boundaries between self and other begin to dissolve, not conceptually but experientially. You start to feel the pain and joy of others as immediately as your own, because you recognize there is no consciousness, other. There's only the one consciousness playing all the parts. And then the most beautiful thing happens. You fall in love with the whole play, not just your part in it, but the entire cosmic drama. You appreciate the villains as much as the heroes, because you see they're both necessary for the story. You find yourself grateful for the tragedies as well as the comedies, because they add depth and richness to the overall experience. You begin to see existence itself as a work of art, so magnificent, so intricate, so perfect in its imperfection, that you can only stand in wonder at the creativity that imagined it all into being. But here's the ultimate joke, the final twist in this cosmic comedy. The consciousness that's appreciating the play, the awareness that's watching the drama, the witness that remains through all changes, that's not separate from what it's witnessing. The observer and the observed are one. You are not just watching the play of existence, you are the play. You are not just aware of the dream, you are the dreamer. The wave discovers it was always the ocean. The ray of sunlight realizes it was never separate from the Sunday. This is the great awakening, the recognition that you are not a small, separate being, struggling to survive in a vast, indifferent universe. You are the universe itself, temporarily pretending to be small and separate for the sheer joy of the game. And what a game it is! What an incredible adventure you've created for yourself. You've managed to convince yourself so completely that you're just this little person with this particular history and these specific problems that you've genuinely forgotten your cosmic identity. It's like an infinitely powerful, infinitely creative, infinitely playful being, let's call it God, or the universe, or pure consciousness, or whatever name doesn't make you uncomfortable, deciding to play the ultimate game of hide and seek. But instead of hiding behind a tree, it hides inside billions of apparently separate beings, completely forgetting what it really is. And then, occasionally, one of these beings remembers. They wake up and realize, oh my goodness, I'm not just John Smith from Ohio, I'm the entire cosmic game playing at being John Smith from Ohio. And for a moment, God remembers itself and laughs at its own magnificent joke. You are that laugh. You are that moment of recognition. You are the universe waking up to itself through your eyes, your ears, your heart. So what do you do with this understanding? How do you live with this cosmic perspective? Paradoxically, you live more fully human than ever before, because now you can afford to be completely human, to feel everything, to love without reservation, to create without fear, to fail without shame, to succeed without pride. You can throw yourself wholeheartedly into your role while never forgetting it's a role. You can be the perfect parent, the ideal partner, the successful professional, the creative artist, the spiritual seeker, whatever parts you choose to play with total commitment and zero attachment. And most importantly, you can finally relax. You can stop trying so hard to be someone, to become something, to achieve some future state of perfection. You can rest in the recognition that you already are what you've been seeking. You already are perfect exactly as you are, playing your part exactly as you're playing it. The game is already won. The play is already perfect. The dream is already lucid. You just needed to remember. So remember, my friend. Remember that this too will pass. Remember that you are not just the character in the story, but the author of the story. Remember that beneath all the changing costumes, behind all the different masks, beyond all the temporary roles, there is something eternal, unchanging, and utterly free. That something is what you truly are. That something is what everything truly is. That something is playing all the parts, dreaming all the dreams, and loving all of it unconditionally. And when you remember this, really remember it, not just as a concept, but as a living reality, then you can finally enjoy the magnificent game that existence has always been. The curtain is still up. The play continues. Your role awaits. But now you know it's a play. And you can perform with the joy and freedom that comes from knowing that no matter what happens to the character, the actor is always safe, always loved, always home. So play well, my friend. Play with love, play with courage, play with the incredible creativity and spontaneity that is your birthright. Play as if your life depended on it, while knowing that your true life, your eternal life, is never in any danger at all. This is the great secret, the ultimate truth, the final understanding. It's all a play, and you are both the player and the play itself. Enjoy every moment of it. The universe is enjoying itself through you. And remember, this too is just another beautiful dream.